It is Dallas Cowboys Executive Vice President Stephen Jones. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, man.
How are we? I know I've asked this a couple of times now, but I got to know, going all the way back to after the first game, if I told you y'all would be 6-2 going into the bye, what would your response be to me?
Probably right after that game, I'd be, where can I sign up? So,
right.
Obviously, that game, we didn't play well. Let's start with that. And played against a good Tampa team that really beat us good. And then to also think, right after the game, we might lose Dak for, 8+ weeks. And certainly we were having to check our hold card. But this team's been resilient. Our coaching staff, the whole organization's been resilient. And, we've really come around. I think this team actually should only get better. I think we saw a little bit of that yesterday with Dak and the offense as he really starts to get back in rhythm with what he knows he can do with this offense, what he's done in the past with it. And I think we saw signs of it yesterday. And, obviously we got to keep working on the run game in terms of, stopping the run game on the other side of the ball. But also you got to give Chicago credit. They had a really great game plan. They weren't going to throw it around much, and had a good design for their quarterback, as well as they've got a couple of really good running backs. And certainly was a challenge to us, but we were able to make the plays when we needed to.
Stephen, when the Chicago Bears came out of the tunnel, were you like, who in the hell are we playing today with those helmets on?
I've had that happen twice this year. I think we played the Redskins with the brown and black and gold, and then, of course, looking over there to yesterday, it felt like maybe the Bengals were coming out. But certainly it was a unique look, and, I'm sure a lot of right now everybody likes to give the fans a little something extra, and certainly they got that yesterday.
Good news is if there was no sun or no lights in the stadium, you still could have played with their glow-in-the-dark helmets.
Well, it was, like you said, very, very unique, but certainly anytime you get a chance to play the Chicago Bears and you come away with a big win like we did, it's a big day.
Talking with Stephen Jones right here on 105 through the Fan. Now, the trade deadline is tomorrow. I really wanted to know, from a logistical perspective, in your experience, is the team more likely to be waiting on calls or making the calls around this time? I think
it's a little of both. I mean, it's you can certainly do both. I mentioned yesterday I was asked, and trades have been going on these last 2 or 3 weeks, quite a few of them. And, I know the deadline's tomorrow, but certainly everybody's been busy around the league. And I think everybody at this point is pretty much aware of who's available. And, there's always certain challenges with any trade past wanting the player, which is, what's it going to cost to get him in terms of draft pick compensation? And secondly, how is the player being compensated versus how you value him?
Now, in terms of Tony Pollard, made a big splash with everyone yesterday, and I know y'all have Zeke, so it hasn't been an issue, but I was just kind of curious, does the organization, do you view Tony Pollard as someone that could be that lead running back?
Well, I think, he ended up getting, just under 20 carries and did a great job. I think Malik came in there and did a great job as well, backing him up. And, I just think we've got a unique situation with Zeke and Tony that, when they're both healthy, we've been successful, with those guys splitting the carries up. So I do think you saw yesterday what Tony's capable of, and certainly can do it. And but in this league, just as we saw against the Bears yesterday, they had, if you will, a three-pronged attack if you include their quarterback. So, splitting these guys up and having some different, type of looks for the opposing defenses, I think it's only a plus for our team. And we're very fortunate to have, Zeke and Tony as part of our offense back there.
Stephen, I feel like at kind of somewhat the halfway point here with you guys having the bye coming up. I've been most surprised in a positive way with how well your offensive line has played, especially with the loss of Tyron Smith going into the season. Would you say that that's the most pleasing part of the season so far for you?
Absolutely, and especially since since we had to make some changes at the midnight hour there when we did lose Tyron, and we had to kick Tyler Smith, who played all of the off season, all the training camp at left guard, to step up and do the job he's done at left tackle. Obviously, McGovern's done a nice job in there at left guard, and I think Steele, is really coming into his own at right tackle. His blocking in the run game is really good, and I just think overall, I don't want to forget any of them. I mean, obviously, the leader of that group's Zach Martin, and Biadaz is doing a great job as well. So you just look at the group, I think it's really good. As you mentioned, the great news is we are going to get Tyron Smith back. And you throw in a Jason Peters and a Ball and a Farniak who will be back. I mean, we got something that's rare in this league, which is to have depth in the offensive line. But, I just think they're playing together. They're playing together well as a unit. They're getting the job done in terms of the running game, and they're getting the job done in terms of protecting Dak.
This might sound silly for somebody who looks like they could be a future Hall of Famer, but I'm seriously curious how that would look. Does Tyron Smith, when he's healthy, automatically get his job back? And have y'all started talking about then this person goes there and how that would all look?
Because he's 3 or 4 weeks out, we really hadn't had that discussion. We've been so focused on each week to week, game to game, getting these guys better week in and week out as a unit. I'm sure, as that time nears, I'm sure Coach McCarthy and Kellen and Joe Philbin and that group will all have some discussions about what gives us the best chance to win when Tyron gets back.
Did you get this?
He's an all-pro, Hall of Fame type player, and if you're going to put your best 5 guys out there, I'm sure he's one of them.
I know Micah, if it was up to him, would play every play on both sides of the ball, special teams and everything like that. It did seem like he was on the sidelines maybe a little bit more than usual yesterday. Was that just part of a planned rotational pattern as far as you know, or are there any lingering injury concerns there?
No, I just think, when you look at it, Coach Quinn, goes through the game plan every week. And, I've mentioned before, this is a long season. And, some guys are a little more beat up than others and at certain times of the year. And you want to, you certainly want to be aware of that. And certainly Micah made, just as he always does, he checked another box here yesterday with the amazing play that he made on the fumble recovery and the have the awareness to get up and run the ball in the end zone. But he's special, and I know Coach Quinn and along with Coach McCarthy, we've got good thoughts as we go into each game in terms of the health of each player and what's in the best interest, for our team to win the game that day, as well as also protect each player for the full season, if you will.
And, Steven, you played high school football, you played college football at Arkansas, and every time you took the field, when a guy went down on the ground with the football, the play was over. You couldn't touch him anymore. And I've seen this happen a lot. It happened, fortunately for the Cowboys yesterday with Justin Fields forgetting it's pro football instead of college football. I know you're not a coach, but how many times do you have to remind young players in the NFL that the rule is you have to touch the guy when he's on the ground?
Yeah, I've seen our guys work it nonstop. Still instinctive from some of these younger college players, as you said. They played the college game where, when you're on the ground, the high school, what you're used to is they're down. But I have heard Coach Quinn and them every time, a player's on the ground, be sure to touch him. And if he slides to catch a ball or any type of situation, make sure you at least touch him. I mean, you don't go over there. You got to be cognizant in the days of play. Now that we're so focused on player health and safety as well, you don't want to go over there and gore the guy. But if the guy's on the ground, you do need to touch him. And I'm sure, on Fields' part, that was just instinctive. Probably going back to college, that guy's down. I'm gonna miss him here. And then the other thing around a pile like that, when you're a quarterback, I'm sure part of his natural instinct was to get out of the way. So I know on hindsight, if he had it back, there's no question he'd have swiped him on the way across him. But I can imagine that was just an instinctive play on his part, was to not necessarily get involved in that pile as a quarterback.
I think a lot of Cowboys fans around here supported Jerry's Halloween costume, especially when we don't get more holding calls against opposition against Micah Parsons. But do you think the NFL has a sense of humor when it comes to Jerry's blind referee Halloween costume?
Oh, absolutely, because I know our officials, I think it's rare that I've seen anything Jerry would have said or made that would be critical. They have a very difficult job, game in and game out. And, in terms of how these guys grade out game in and game out, most of the time you jump up and down to have a player making that same grade. I mean, it's a full three hours plus of officiating. They have a very difficult job in real time. And I do think they understand you can have some humor with this stuff, but I can't imagine they don't think there's nothing but respect that comes out of the Cowboy organization in terms of how difficult their job is, one, but also what a good job they do as well.
If Jerry ever dressed up as a referee again, would you ever consider dressing up as Luka Doncic so you could just yell at Jerry all night long?
Come on, Mike!
I
think I'll take a pass on that one.
Man, I cannot believe I did not see where that question was going while you were asking it. Now, speaking of having fun, what did you think of the tight end celebration? Because that set social media on fire, and I was a fan of it as well.
Yeah, I thought it was really clever, and those guys in that tight end room, all of them have they got high IQs in there, and they're pretty clever. So I thought it was great. I'm a big rodeo fan myself. I love to go watch it, and I thought it was outstanding.
Now, I had one more trade deadline question, if we can. And again, this year, we're all kind of hoping will be a unique year. I know there's a lot of football left to be played, but how important is it how you evaluate your team in terms of going for it when you get to the trade deadline? I know Jerry said something about that yesterday, but do you look at this team and say, hey, this might be the best shot we've had in a while. Maybe we would be more aggressive than you normally would at the trade deadline?
Well, we've been aggressive before. I guess somebody asked me, I don't think it was y'all, about, hey, we hadn't made a really aggressive trade since the early 90s. That's not necessarily true. We went for big with Amari Cooper back 4 or 5 years ago, and, gave one for him. At the right situations there, we're always looking to make our team better, and obviously we're very much in the thick of a championship run this year. So absolutely, if we see the right situation that presents itself, Jerry as well, who has the final call on this, he's an aggressive guy. And, if the right situation's there and we think it can make a big difference for us, then we'd be more than willing to pull the trigger on it. I think we've got our team in a really good spot. We've got great depth on this team. And certainly if we see a player out there that can make us better, either side of the ball, we would take a long, hard look at it.
And you just said potentially in the midst of a championship run. That's the feeling a lot of us, myself included, feel around here. Do y'all evaluate the team right now and say, this is a team that could win a Super Bowl?
Well, I think you see yesterday, it's, our fans are excited and others. I know we are, to see our offense as Dak getting into rhythm, to see our offense be able to win a game for us, when the other team did a good job running the football, and they were able to put up, almost 30 points, but we were able to put up the points we needed to win the game. But in general, obviously, this defense has been, very strong, and you accompany that with good special tems, and then the offense that I think we can have with Dak at the helm. I do think we have the ingredients to be a really one of the top teams this year, but we still got a lot of work to do. We still got a lot of improvement to do. and certainly I know we'll be looking to see if there's any player or players that could help us even add to what we already have in terms of our chances to make a run.
Steven, last question for you on Halloween. When you were a kid, who stole the candy? Was it your brother, your sister, your father, or were you the stealer of the candy?
Ooh.
It's not even close. It was Jerry Sr. It was my father. He'd go into the bags and look for his favorite candies, and he'd look up and say, some of my stuff is missing, and there's no question it was him.
Outstanding. Thank you very much, good sir. Always a pleasure, and we will, looks like, maybe catch up with you in 2 weeks now.
Well, sounds great, guys, and I hope y'all have a great Halloween tonight. Happy Halloween to everybody out there. Take care.